As the Mets look toward their future, one key question remains. What would a pivot away from Pete Alonso look like? While Alonso seems like a natural fit to re-sign with New York, the longer the free agent market drags on, the more uncertain his future becomes. Teams have been filling their needs at first base, making Alonso's path to a lucrative, long-term deal less clear. If the Mets ultimately decide to part ways with their slugger, they could take several directions to retool their roster. The Alex Bregman option. One potential pivot involves Alex Bregman, the elite defender at third base who's garnered interest from several teams, including the Tigers and Red Sox. Bregman could be a seamless fit for the Mets, as he would not only replace Alonso's offensive production but also solidify the infield defensively. After a down year at the plate in 2024, Bregman bounced back to hit .288 with 22 homers and an .848 OPS, suggesting that he still has a lot to offer. The Mets would need to consider whether they're willing to commit to a long-term deal for the 30-year-old. Though, the trade route. Nolan Arenado. Another route could involve a trade for Nolan Arenado. The St. Louis Cardinals have made the veteran third baseman available, and Arenado has expressed a willingness to accept a trade to the Mets. However, his declining offensive numbers and hefty contract could deter New York from pursuing him unless the Cardinals agree to eat a significant portion of his salary. While Arenado could still provide defensive stability, the Mets would have to believe he can bounce back offensively to make this trade worth the risk. An outfielder or DH option. If the Mets decide to target an outfielder or designated hitter to replace Alonso's bat, one intriguing name still on the market is Anthony Santander. The 30-year-old corner outfielder, DH hit a career-high 44 homers last season with a solid .814 OPS. However, Santander doesn't provide much in terms of on-base ability, and his defense is a liability. The Mets would need to weigh whether Santander could be a full-time DH or if they could squeeze him into an outfield rotation, though this wouldn't address the first base hole created by Alonso's departure. A first base stopgap. With many of the top stopgap first base options now off the board, the Mets could be forced to either make a trade or look for a temporary solution from free agency. Players like Ty France or Justin Turner might be available, but these options are unlikely to be long-term answers. Sliding Mark Vientos to first base could be an option, but the Mets would need to find a viable third baseman to replace him. Internal options. Moving Vientos and relying on young talent. If the Mets go internal, they could shift Vientos to first base and explore options for third base. Jeff McNeil, Luis Angel Acuna, Ronnie Mauricio, and Brett Beatty could be potential candidates for third base. But each comes with risks. McNeil had a down season in 2024. Acuna and Mauricio are unproven, and Beatty has yet to establish himself at the big league level. This approach could create additional holes in the roster, particularly at second base. In the end, while Pete Alonso's return to the Mets remains the most sensible option, there are several potential paths the team could take if they decide to move on from their star first baseman. The coming months will determine which direction New York takes as they continue to reshape their roster.